Hey, groovy people, I'm John. I'm a retired math teacher. I taught math for 36 years. This is a shout out to David. David wanted to go over quadratic equations. And so a quadratic equation is y equals something x squared. And then you could have a plus 5x plus 7 or something. So like 10x squared plus 5x plus 7, y equals that stuff. So anyways, quadratic equations always graph these things called parabolas, and parabolas are U-shaped. And so I'm going to show you the most basic. This is called the parent graph, y equals x squared. So I did these x values, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and I'm squaring them to get my y value. So -3 squared is -3 times -3, which is +9. So we're going to graph -3, 9, -3, 9. So over 3 up 9. Okay, -2 squared, -2 times -2 is 4. So -2, 4 over 2 to the left 2 up 4. -1 squared is 1, so over 1 up 1. There's 0 squared is 0. Over 1 up 1 for 1 squared. 2 squared is 4, so over 2 up 4. 3 squared is 9, so over 3 up 9. So there's our parabola right there for the basic. This is called the parent graph of parabolas, you guys, of quadratic equations, y equals x squared. Okay, now, most of the time in quadratics, we want to know where does that graph cross the x-axis. And where it crosses the x-axis is when y equals 0. So right here, this is my x-axis right here, and this is where y equals 0, okay? This is the y-axis. This is when x equals 0. So we want to know where does the quadratic equations cross the x-axis. So what we do is we set our equation equal to 0, and then there's a whole unit on factoring that shows you, and that's the best way. And that's probably 8 or 9 or more lessons. So I'm just going to briefly discuss some of this, you guys. So we want them to equal 0, and that'll tell me where that graph crosses the x-axis. If we can't factor it, I use this as a last resort. It's the quadratic equation, x equals opposite b. It's okay to say negative b if you want, you guys, but it's, b might be negative, so it's negative, negative, so it's just like opposite b. So opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac and all over 2a. Again, I use this as a last resort because you'll have some negatives in there and you might have some fractions in there, and with the square root and that minus sign, it's just a setup for mistakes. So I use that as a last option. Okay, sometimes parabolas intersect the x-axis in two spots. Here's one that's going down, so it's intersecting the x-axis in two spots. Sometimes the parabola only intersects it in one spot. That's when the vertex is on the x-axis. And when that happens, just remember this. This is called a double root. I'll talk about that in just a second. Okay? Sometimes, you guys, the parabola won't intersect the x-axis. It doesn't. So you might have two solutions. You might have one solution, or there might be no solutions, depending on how many places that parabola intersects the x-axis. Okay? So this says state the solution of each and give a quadratic equation that this parabola gives right here. Okay, so the solution is, remember, these are x equals, notice how y equals 0. Y equals 0 here and y equals 0 here. Here's x. X equals -4 and x equals +2. So those are the solutions, -4 and 2. And to get x equals -4, I would solve x plus 4 equal to 0. And then I'd go -4 minus 4. That's how we get x equals -4. Over here, this would be x minus 2 equals 0, because I'd go +2 plus 2 and get x equals 2 right there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to get the quadratic equation that gives me these as the answers right here, I'm going to FOIL out x plus 4 times x minus 2. And don't forget, we got to make it equal to 0 because it's an equation. Equation means it equals something. So we're going to go ahead and FOIL out x plus 4 times x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, so FOIL is first times first. So x times x gets me x squared. The O means outer on the left times outer on the right. So x times negative 2 is negative 2x. The I stands for inner times inner. So 4 times x is plus 4x. And then the L stands for last times last. So 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Okay, and then we just combine these like terms. Minus 2x plus 4x is a plus 2x right there. So here's the quadratic equation that gave me negative 4 and positive 2 as the answers right here. So you're going to learn how to factor this to make it look like this, and then we set these factors equal to 0 and solve. But here's the equation, what the directions said, give the equation right here. Okay, now one more, and then I'll show you where to find all the rest of this stuff. So here we go. So this one is, there's only one spot right here. So there's only one x answer, x equals 3. Now remember what I said to remember is this is a double root. So x equals 3 is the only solution. So x minus 3 is the factor that gives me x equals 3. And since it's a double root, I write it 2 times. So we're going to FOIL out x minus 3 times x minus 3, and that gets me x squared minus 3x minus 3x. And then don't forget, a negative 3 times a negative 3 is a plus 9 right there. And then we combine the like terms. Minus 3x is minus 6x right there. Okay? All right. I have, it would take hours to do the whole thing, so not to discourage you, but I have everything else already here in my Integrated Math 2 link. So go to my Mr. Math blog link, which is right here. Okay, and then look for, it's right in the center of that yellow ruler. Look for Integrated Math 2, and then you want to find modules 6 through 9. I have it very detailed how to solve all these quadratics right there, okay? All right, I hope that helps, and I hope that makes sense. See you later. Peace out.